We have an enormous amount of diversity in this community. After talking to different people, you have a different perspective. Like some people say, well, Japanese language and culture is not part of the Japanese Canadian thing, right? Other people are saying, well, why are we working on human rights and stuff? That's not, and we have such a small community here. It's like, okay, well, you may not necessarily agree or embrace the culture, but it doesn't mean that you have to disassociate yourself from the community. There must be something else. If you're interested in history or human rights, then you can latch onto that piece of it. And that's really the challenge I think a lot of these community centers are facing now, is that they're saying, well, we're intermarried now, a lot of the kids, it's hard to get them out, they're not interested or whatever. Well, our community is shrinking is what their comment is. Well, in reality, the community is expanding. Like the interest in Japanese culture, and we talked about Japanese restaurants, is getting overwhelmingly huge. So, you don't have to be Japanese to enjoy that. But at the same time, the people that have some Japanese history, well, we want to try to retain that in some way, shape, or form. So that's really the challenge. It's not the community shrinking, it's changing. And can we adapt as community associations to that changing need? And if we can do that successfully, then we have a big, broad base of people to draw from. But that's always the difficult part. You have to change your ways somehow to do that, and that's always a challenge. Although, our membership may not support that, but the number of activities that are happening here is huge. We have a very strong immigrant population, and they seem to be growing in terms of, language school has 100, 200 students in there, so it's, amazing there. And then when we do these festivals, again, a huge draw from the greater community. So, I think if we look back to what was done, we're doing a lot of different things now, and I think a lot of those will be more relevant to people. And I think if we keep going down that path, you just have to be really creative, I think, thinking about ways and to, get people interested. The dance and the drum and all those things are very mainstays of our community, but there's probably a lot of other things, like the manga thing. A big community exists with that, and we haven't really touched at all on that area. So, yeah, I don't think it's a question of can we expand? It's how to do it. Which area to go to, because there's so much to choose from. The interesting thing, I talked to some people that came from Japan. They look at what we're doing about the dancing, and he goes, why are you doing that? Like, that's not even Japanese culture today. That was like 40, 50 years ago. Nobody does that now, right? It's not, so we've crystallized a part of Japanese culture, and kind of, it's almost like a museum, but we haven't evolved that. So, but like other elements like taiko and stuff has really taken off, and a lot of the taiko groups are flourishing across the country now. And manga and all those things. We're seeing a very huge imprint of the Japanese culture on the worldwide culture. Effectively, it's becoming absorbed, and that's kind of a reflection, a little bit of multiculturalism, I guess. But a lot of it's more globalization, right? And that's just, well, you don't have to be Japanese to do those things. If you like to do it, then let's do it, right? So our, I guess, challenge is saying, well, how do we embrace that? How do we evolve with that and get other people involved? We're seeing some evolution of that with the taiko group, for instance. It's definitely been becoming more established, and there's not that many people that are Japanese in that group, but they have a close association with our community. We're doing Japanese festivals now that we open the doors to the broader audience, and the overwhelming response to that. So, I think it's starting to happen a little bit. I don't think we've gone fully on board where we see like half of our membership is not Japanese. I haven't seen that yet, but that probably, if we're going to be successful in the future, we're going to have to get to that point and try to embrace that. And we see there's some good models across the country with some centers that have been able to do that. On the flip side, we've seen examples where if you haven't been able to do that, well, it slowly fades away. So that's really going to be the challenge. Oh, we did a Stampede breakfast too. That was introduced a few years ago as well, as sort of a way to get us to know the community around here, because we're in a largely residential community and most of the people are Japanese around here. So in Calgary, the thing to do is to host the Stampede breakfast, which is free and open to anybody. And we sit there and flip pancakes and cook up sausages and serve that to the community. And we have our cowboy hats on and stuff. So that may be a little bit strange, but if you talk about true integration, there's a good example of it. This is a great community here. I think they've been very accommodating. Yeah.